The War for Mansoul by John Bunyan, as told by Ethel Barrett. Copyright 1998, Christian Light Publications Incorporated, Harrisonburg, Virginia. A Prophet at the Party. The storm cleared, and the days that followed were happy ones. Mansoul was doing very well. The townsfolk grew stronger and more self-sufficient as time went by. They had never before really been aware of their gifts and talents. Mr. Connell's security made them realize that they were many. Mr. God's peace was not missed as much as they had thought he might be, nor the feasts with the prince, for that matter. They were growing strong and tough on Connell Security's doctrine, and as the weeks grew into months, more and more confident of their charm and ability. Self-confidence was a heady business. It gave a glow to the cheek and a spring to the step. They congratulated themselves and each other on their radiant appearance. Meanwhile, Mr. Connell's security kept the town entertained with lavish banquets. They grew stronger and more lavish as he added more of Mansoul's gentry to his guest list, until he had almost everybody who was anybody dancing attendance. But he was ever on the lookout for more influential townfolk to bring them under his spell. One night, a few months after God's peace had laid down his commission, old Connell Security gave a huge party to which all the powers that be were invited. This particular night he had invited a Mr. Godlyfear, hoping by the influence of the jolly company to lull him into smug and comfortable complacency. The guests arrived. The mansion was ablaze with light. The table was groaning under the weight of all kinds of delicacies, and the huge rooms were abuzz with excitement and high spirits. Everyone was bustling with self-importance and merry with self-appreciation. Everyone but Mr. Godlyfear. He sat apart, like a stranger. He did not eat or drink. He would not be drawn into the conversation or the laughter. Mr. Connell's security watched him with growing uneasiness. He was apparently not going to succumb easily. Clearly, he needed a bit of a boost. Mr. Connell's security leaned toward him with one of his most disarming smiles. "Mr. Godlyfear, are you not well? I beg your pardon, but you seem to be ill. Here is a cordial of Mr. Forget-Good's making." "Sir," said Godlyfear discreetly, "I thank you for all things courteous and civil, but it's delightful. A dram of this will make you bonny and blithe, and so make you more fit for us feasting companions." "Thank you, but I do not care for your cordial." "Oh, come, it will take the weight off your mind." "I do have something on my mind, sir. I would like to have a word with the chiefs of Mansoul." And he scraped his chair back and got to his feet. "You, elders, chiefs, yes, and natives of Mansoul. It is strange to see you so merry when Mansoul is in such danger." Mr. Connell's security was horrified. "Mr. Godlyfear," he whispered, "you really look ill. You want sleep, good sir, no doubt. If you want to retire—" "No, I don't want to retire. Sir, if you were not completely destitute of heart, you could not do what you have done to Mansoul." Now the room was very quiet. Everyone was straining to hear. Connell's security started to rise. "Mr. Godlyfear, what are you talking about? You know very well enough. You have stripped Mansoul of her strength and left her wide open to the enemy." "I've done nothing of the sort." Connell's security was on his feet now. "Then I'll explain," said Godlyfear. "From the time that my lords of Mansoul and you, sir, grew so great, a feast is made for mirth. Why then do you now, to your shame and our embarrassment, break out into such a passionate, melancholy language when you should eat, drink, and be merry? From that time, if you will, please lie down and take a nap, and meanwhile we will be merry. From that time, the strength of Mansoul has been offended. Fie, Mr. Godlyfear, fie! You have weakened its towers. You have weakened its gates. You have spoiled the locks and bars." Mr. Connell's security threw out his hands in a conciliatory gesture. He spoke softly with mock patience. Mr. Godlyfear, what's the matter with you? Why are you so timid? I'm on your side. Only you're for doubting and I'm for being confident. Confident of what? Mansoul is impregnable. Mansoul was impregnable with a proviso, complete dependence on Emmanuel. Mansoul's strength was not in its towers. It was in Mansoul, in Emmanuel, and that strength is gone. My dear sir, if you please, no, don't interrupt me. I will not be silent. It isn't time to flatter or be silent. He turned to the others. Do you question that your strength is gone? He flung at them. They were gaping at him foolishly in unbelief. Yes, I see the question in your faces. I'll answer your question with a question. Where is Prince Emmanuel? There was not a sound in the room. Well, he said. Silence. When did you see him last? When did you hear from him, or taste any of his dainty bits? When did you sit at his table for a love feast? When have you talked with him, really talked with him? When have you sought him? His voice fell to a whisper. When have you seen his face? The effect was stunning. They looked as if they'd been dealt a blow. You cannot answer, he thundered, because he's gone. You were too busy for him, and he's gone. He gestured with contempt toward Carnal Security. You are now feasting with this diabolan monster, but he is not your prince. Emmanuel is gone without so much as acquainting the nobles of Mansoul with his going. If this is not a sign of his anger, then I am not acquainted with the methods of godliness. Carnal Security recovered himself. Mr. Godlyfear, will you never shake off your timidity? Are you afraid of being sparrow-blasted? Emmanuel did not withdraw all at once, Godlyfear continued, as if he had not been interrupted. He kept himself close, but more retired at first. His speech was not as familiar, nor as pleasant as it had been. Carnal Security appealed to the gentleman at the table. Who has hurt you? He asked. My lords and gentlemen, continued Godlyfear, your gradual declining from him provoked him gradually to depart from you, hoping you would be made sensible by his actions, and be renewed by humbling yourselves. Who has hurt you? Carnal Security insisted. But when he saw that none would take these fearful signs of his anger to heart, he went away from this place. And this I saw with my own eyes. Who has hurt you? Carnal Security said again. No one was listening to him. No one at all. Oh, conscience, will, understanding. Godlyfear looked at them sadly. You have been feasting with the one who has driven your lord away. He gestured toward Carnal Security, but he was still looking at them. While you boast, your strength is gone. They stared back at him incredulously. Your lord is gone, he said quietly, and you don't even know when he left. Silence. Then Mr. Conscience got slowly to his feet. He was trembling so he could hardly stand. He spoke to the others, but he was still staring at Mr. Godlyfear. Indeed, my brothers, he said, I'm afraid that what he says is true. I like not such dumpish doings, muttered Carnal Security, and stalked out of the room. No one glanced his way. I, for my part, Conscience went on, have not seen my prince for a long, long time. I've been so busy. His voice shook. They waited for him to go on. I cannot remember the day, nor can I answer Mr. Godlyfear's question. I'm afraid it's all up with us. Mr. Godlyfear nodded his head toward the door where Carnal Security had just left. With your prince, no enemy from without could have made a prey of you. Yet, since you have sinned against him, your enemies from within have been too hard for you to withstand. Mr. Conscience looked as if he would fall down dead at the table. He sank back into his seat. Godly Fear looked around the banquet table and searched the pale faces of the other elders and officers. Not one of them could meet his eyes. Since without him you can do nothing, and he is departed from you, turn your feast into a sigh, and your mirth into lamentation, he said quietly. No one answered for a long time. How did we miss it? Said Willie Will, finally. It seems so obvious now. How did we miss it? It seemed to happen in an instant, said Conscience. Our world came crashing down. No, it's been happening for a long time, said Understanding. It came to a climax in an instant. We've been thriving on Colonel Security's doctrine, said Willie Will. We've been drunk on his doctrine, said Understanding. The words of our prince come very hotly into my mind, said Conscience. It's about time, said Godly Fear. Do you remember what he told us to do to diabolans who would rise to delude us? Conscience went on. Everyone was silent for a moment. Then it began. First his muttering, then louder, then sporadic shouts, then one great shout that filled the mansion. Burn him! Burn Colonel Security and his house with him! Burn him! Burn him!